They nip his toes and eat the food that's in his domain. They do this, and they get closer and closer and bolder, till one day, that lion gets up and tears the shit out of everybody, runs like the wind, eats everything in his path. Because every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
So I don't know. It feels like every 12 to 18 months we get a story like this where people decide it's time to come after J. Scott Campbell for, I guess, his his cheesecake covers that sell so well and have an enormous audience. And this week, J. Scott Campbell decided to fight back. And here with me to talk about that is my good friend, comic book writer, editor Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't wait to talk about this. I am so psyched to talk about this.
This has been going on for years. People are always criticizing his covers. They're too sexualized. The women are, I guess, too visually appealing to
Where
a certain
are their organs?
to a certain segment of the population, and they're always kind of going after him. And this week there was an artist, I believe, is it non-binary Finn?
Yeah, so an Adventure Time fan apparently, or a big fan of The Force Awakens. I'm not sure.
I believe that's their handle. They decided to fix some of his drawings in not very good fashion. And I don't know, we just talked about something similar to this where Dan Slott was saying, hey, if you go and fix people's art, you're essentially ending your career. We were critical of his take on it. I think the way that J. Scott Campbell has reacted this time was a lot more appropriate. Let's put it that way.
It was definitely a lot more fun. I mean, he basically used their own tactics against them, and I thought it was delightful. I thought it was fantastic. I think that there needs to be more pushback against these people. They're not comic book fans. They don't spend a dime in the industry. And, and let me say this, for all of the comic industry professionals that came to J. Scott Campbell's defense, which I'm glad they did, but at the same time, a lot of you have enabled these people. You've enabled these weirdos, these malicious, unhappy people, because they were going after your Twitter enemies. So you enabled them, and now it's basically an Ouroboros. It's a serpent devouring its own tail. It's all come home to roost. Sales have tanked. You've spent all this time coddling these people and trying to appeal to these people. They don't care about comics. They don't care about the industry. They don't have any money anyway. They're just here to spread their misery.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of little subculture, really, on Tumblr. I think maybe it's on Instagram too, where they're always going in and trying to fix people's work. Now, there are a lot of artists, and I guess you could go in there and play around with their work and maybe try and change it to your style or whatever. But when you're trying to go in there and say that J. Scott Campbell's art is wrong and you're going to fix it so it's morally acceptable in today's society, I think it's a weird take. And I think it's just a weird community. It's almost like the shipping community. It's like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah, I think that it's people who are largely mentally ill. I think that they don't have anything else in their lives except cartoons and art and the things that they're kind of shut in maybe is the best theory I can come up with. There are obviously people that are hurting. They're broken inside and they need some target to attack to make themselves feel good. And for whatever reason, they fixated on J. Scott Campbell. And probably because his art is it's very attractive women, it's very attractive men, it's a very stylized take, and it is a take that sells. So in order to get some kind of internet clout, in order to get people to pat them on the back and tell them, oh, you're a wonderful, isn't this wonderful that you've done this? They go after him. And it was nice to see him push back. He's pushed back before, but this is the best version of that. He really came out of the gate. He came out of the gate swinging, and I don't think he did anything inappropriate. He basically just did everything that they did and showed them what it felt like.
Well, but he did it at a professional standard. I think that was the best part. So they'd adjusted this Mary Jane cover. It's very famous. Everybody's seen it. Where she's kind of sitting there with a coffee, and in the background you can see Spider-Man in the city. It's a famous cover.
Yeah, she looks worried. It's like he's swinging off again, and she's wondering, is her husband going to come home?
Yeah, so they changed the position of one of the knees to where the knees are closed, and she's sitting on them. Changed the breast size of the character. Brought the hip huggers up so that you could not see even any of the skin. It's just a bunch of little silly things. But it wasn't done well. There was a lot of anatomically incorrect parts of the drawing. And J. Scott Campbell said, you know what? If you want to fix my art, I'm going to take your fixed art. I'm going to show you how you did everything that you did wrong. I'm going to point it all out specifically, how this doesn't work, how to make it better. And I will show you what your art should look like if you want to make your version of this cover. And really flip the whole thing on its head.
Thing. How fortunate is that person to have someone of J. Scott Campbell's talent and stature in the industry take time out of his schedule to critique their art. There are artists right now that would kill for that kind of attention from J. Scott Campbell. So what a gift he gave non-binary Finn in this instance.
Well, and I think that's what this is all about for non-binary Finn. I think it's all about attention, to get attention, possibly on their art, whatever it is that they're trying to sell. Maybe it's just opinions or whatever. So you go out there, you criticize a very famous artist using something that people have been criticizing for a while. You try to fix it. Although it's funny, in the fix, the non-binary Finn is like, please don't critique me. I try to do my best, but please don't say anything about this.
You don't need to zoom in. It's not perfect. It's just kind of a, and it's like, okay, well, what
did you just do?
Yeah, why do you get to have that protection? What is it about you that makes you special and not able to be criticized? And like I said, treat people the way that you want to be treated. You treated J. Scott Campbell this way. He came back and he treated you the same way. He treated you with the same level of snark, the same level of disdain, and the same level of respect that you gave him, which is almost nothing. And then you see everybody coming out and they're criticizing J. Scott Campbell and they're saying like, oh, well, you're punching down. And, I think that I responded, because Clownfish TV was talking about it on Twitter, Neon over there. And I responded to him with, the quote that I think we've got at the top of the show there, which is, oh, you're punching down. This person's only a teenager. Well, they brought the fight to J. Scott Campbell. He didn't go looking for that. He didn't do a Dan Slott and search for his name and find, this thing went viral and it came to his attention. So he went back out and he did it. And like the quote at the top of the show, you got these jackals nipping at your heels, and they've been nipping at J. Scott's heels for a long, long time. And sometimes the lion has to get up and remind the jackals who he is and just tear the shit out of him. And it was fitting. It needed to be done, and it needs to be done more often.
Well, he certainly brought him down to size, and all of his criticisms were not only valid, he treated them with more respect because he went out there and gave him a masterclass in how not to draw the human anatomy. And he said, you know what, if you want to do this looks more natural. Your elbow does not look human at this point. And
she had like a Popeye forearm, where the forearm was bigger than the bicep. The way that she was sitting on her knees, the way she changed like the posing of her, the way she was sitting was not natural and kind of positioned on the edge of the couch. She'd be off balance. She'd probably fall off. He went through. The clavicle, was too high. So her neck would be broken if it was, if their collarbones were actually up that high. So it was fantastic to see. Like they got a really good lesson. I don't think
I'm happy to see J. Scott Campbell defend himself. He does defend himself from time to time, but this is a no nonsense. I've had enough. If you all think you're better, I can do the same thing to you, but I'm one of the greatest comic artists in the business today. I'm the most in-demand, probably comic cover artist there is, even more in-demand really than Alex Ross. This is how he makes his living, and they're trying to affect it. And he said, you know what? I can do a professional critique of what you're doing. What you're doing is an amateur fix to my artwork that is already beloved and already made a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. And then the people who are attacking him, like I saw one person say that, all these people defending what he did, in critiquing this artist, are sickening. Well, I guess I'm sickening because you know what? This is a hill I'm going to die on. I'm going to defend him on this until the end. And I think that more people do it. There needs to be more pushback against these malicious, just unhappy people. Listen, I get it. J. Scott Campbell draws beautiful women. He draws attractive men. That's what comics is about. If you have a problem with that, you don't have to buy the books. Let's be honest. You're not buying books anyway. You're just complaining on the internet so that you have something to do. But, you don't have to buy the books. You're allowed to like what you like. You're allowed to like what you don't like. But you need to stop telling other people that they don't have that right. When I go to a convention, when there were conventions, and J. Scott Campbell has a booth, 70% of that line is women buying his stuff. So, for you to sit there, women, this sexualizes women and this isn't, this is for the male gaze and things like that. There's a lot more females gazing at J. Scott Campbell's art and loving it. So.
Yeah, I've never got the whole male gaze thing. It's commercial art.
We're not allowed to enjoy anything, Wes. We can't.
But it's commercial art. What sells.
Yeah.
If J. Scott Campbell's cheesecake pinups didn't sell, he would use another style. I've seen him do Spawn. He doesn't have to do this, but this is what Marvel contracts him to do. This is what, essentially, pays the bills for it. And for anyone to expect him to
draw Disney characters, and he has a fantastic Disney style, whether he's drawing The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast, or, and of course he draws the Disney princesses. They look gorgeous and they're very tastefully done. They're in his style, but they're obviously meeting the Disney standard of what they find to be acceptable. So, he does a lot of different things, but the fact of the matter is people come to him for his good girl art, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of preference. And if you don't like it, you can be on your way. Like you guys always like to say, maybe it's not for you. Not everything has to be. You can have all the comics in the. I'm in favor of all the different types of comics in the world. I'm in favor of there being a comic book for every person that wants to buy one. Whether you want to read about I don't know, lesbian bicyclists or non-binary jugglers. Someone out there create that book, but understand the audience that you're creating it for, how large that audience is, and what the return on it's going to be. J. Scott Campbell's stuff is made for a mainstream audience. It's made for the largest possible return.
Yeah. The idea that somebody criticizing J. Scott Campbell and then him coming back with essentially the same criticism and fixing their art is so out of bounds. Like, listen, I have a YouTube channel. Am I, I'm not Comics Explained or Comic Historian or Ethan Van Sciver or Richard.
Well, none of them have ever invited me on.
Well, exactly. I'm the perfect size channel for you. But
That's
even
right.
being a smaller channel, I criticize the industry, and I do criticize the art, whether it be the writers or the art, from time to time. Well, even more from time to time. That's kind of part of what the channel is. That does not absolve me from anything, because I've made myself a part of the conversation with my personal criticism of the writing or the art. I have opened myself up for the criticism as well, whether or not my criticism is valid, my presentation is good, whether my production quality is up. And all that's like, if you want to go out there and criticize other people, you're opening yourself to the criticism. And there's no punching down, especially when you go out there and attack other people.
One thing I am really tired of is people thinking that they can come in and they can criticize professionals and not get a clap back. I believe in keeping it professional. I believe that as the professional, especially if you're talking to customers, if they say, like, I didn't enjoy this, or I don't like where this storyline's going, or, whatnot, I tend to respond, when I have people come and criticize things that I've done. I try to respond in the best way. Like, I'm sorry you didn't like it. Tell me what you didn't like about it. I'm not saying that I didn't like it, but, if you've got constructive feedback, I'm happy to listen to it. And then maybe I'll do something better in the future that you like more. But when you're dealing with people who aren't customers and who are just coming at you and saying that your art is bad, your art shouldn't be out there simply because it's, attractive, it's attractive women, I reject that completely. First of all, they're
almost trying to say his art is lewd and not fit for public consumption.
Hypersexualized is the term they keep using. And I don't think
what song just won the Grammy for best music?
Yeah. I would if I had kids, I would put J. Scott Campbell artwork in front of them long before I would let them listen to Cardi B.
Yeah,
I think they'd have to be out of the house before they were allowed to listen to Cardi B. So it's a personal choice. Like I said, if you don't like the art, you don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to buy it. Nobody's forcing you to buy comics. Nobody's forcing you to buy J. Scott Campbell covers. But conversely, you cannot force me not to. You don't get to tell me that his art isn't good, or that I can't enjoy it, or that it can't exist. I absolutely reject that. And I am tired of these Puritans coming and telling us what's what. You're not part of this industry. You haven't earned what J. Scott Campbell has earned. He's got something that you will probably never have. Talent and sales. Once you have both of those, then come talk to me about what you think the merit of his art is.
Yeah, I will give J. Scott Campbell credit. He could have gone out there and did the Dan Slott talking down, finger wag, like, how dare you? We'll remember your name if you don't apologize to me. He just turned it around on him and said, how's the taste of your own medicine? Mm-hmm. Because this is what you're doing to me, and this is my actual livelihood. Your hobby on Tumblr is different than my livelihood and what I'm being paid, handsomely paid, to take care of me and my family. It's just one of those ridiculous takes. I'll never understand it, and it's only getting worse. The cycle just gets faster and faster. And in 7 months, we're probably going to talk about this again, because it's time to claim that J. Scott Campbell's art is somehow not fit for consumption. Even though in some respects things are getting more and more graphic over time, but depicting a beautiful woman on a comic book cover is becoming, somehow unacceptable.
Listen, I understand that people are broken. I understand that people have insecurities, that people, have trauma. I'm empathetic to that. But honestly, get yourself some help. Go get yourself some therapy, work through your issues. I'm sorry that seeing a depiction of a beautiful woman, a drawing, I'm sorry that you think that somehow devalues you as a person, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for that viewpoint, because I grew up with He-Man. All right. Like, we were constantly having these hyper muscular men, shoved in our face. And it was like, this is the ideal of masculinity. And somehow I grew up, and I'm not hyper muscular. I'm not, I'm not walking around lifting the sword of Grayskull and, but somehow I still get by. And it doesn't bother me when I see that, when I see Chris Hemsworth walk out on Thor without a shirt and all the women hoot and holler in the audience, I am secure enough to sit there and go, oh, that's a built dude.
You don't feel body shamed?
No, I don't feel body shamed, because here's the thing. If I felt that way, I'd get my ass in the gym and I'd start lifting and I would work towards that body. It's much easier to sit behind a keyboard and criticize rather than just getting out there and doing the work. If you're unhappy with yourself, work on yourself. Go to therapy. If you're unhappy with your body, you can exercise, you can diet, you can change your life. The problem is that requires effort. Sitting and typing mean comments and redrawing some guy's cover on your Cintiq or on your iPad, that doesn't require that much effort. And then you get all the little internet claps from all the like-minded malcontents, and you feel good about yourself. You get that little burst of endorphins. But at the end of the day, you're still unhappy. So you don't like it. It makes you feel bad. I understand. You've got some things that you need to work through. Go take care of it. But stop going after people who aren't responsible. It's not a J. Scott Campbell problem that his drawings make you feel bad. It's a you problem. Fix it.
Well, yeah, and it's not like J. Scott Campbell is the only cover ever available.
No.
It's a variant cover.
That's why he's paid. Your poor retailer had to buy 25 or 50 copies to get.
Yeah, the comics that aren't going to sell, just so they could sell the one that people actually like. And I got to point out, Aaron, the worst version of Thor in the MCU is not even the one in Ragnarok. It's the one in Endgame where he's just like a fat slob. No one wants to see that Thor.
I don't know.
It was disrespectful to the character. But, I guess you and I could probably relate to him a little bit more.
Finally, he's sad. He's overweight. He's he's got a lot of trauma. He's lost some family members. He's hurting. Finally, a hero that I feel represented by.
Finally, a Thor we could all get behind. God. I don't know what they were thinking with that one and the the super neurotic, schmarmy Hulk.
It was, those were weird choices in Endgame. The Thor thing was played for laughs, which I thought was kind of a disservice. It was kind of funny. Look, Tony Stark called him Lebowski, haha, I understand that reference. It's kind of like cheap laughs, and I'm not above a cheap laugh. Anybody who's read my work can tell you that. But I do think it was funny that it was played for laughs after how serious they took Thor's trauma in Infinity War. One of the best moments in that movie is when Rocket's talking to him and says, well, what if you're wrong? What if you can't beat Thanos? And Thor just kind of shrugs and says, well, what do I have left to lose? And it's a very sad moment because you realize out of everybody, at that point, he has lost the most.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're just kind of thinking about that stuff. We did a comic book writing stream about humor. And one of the rules out there, Aaron, was you don't want a joke that's going to basically make your main hero look stupid. And I think that's essentially what we got in Endgame. So watch that stream if you haven't. That was actually a good writing stream. So I don't know. I guess we should wrap this up, Aaron. There's a couple of other things we're going to try and talk about this week. But listen, if you want to fuck with J. Scott Campbell, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. This time you shove the horn straight up the Tumblr's ass. And they got very butthurt about it. They got very sad. But listen.
Good. Good.
He turned it around on you. He did nothing but what you did, but actually give you a comic book lesson while he was doing it. I think that he was, he was much nicer about it than I've seen other pros.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, he was fair. He was a little bit snarky, but he's earned that. And the way they came at him, the way that he gets treated, I think by this sect of fandom, and I don't even really think they are a sect of comic book fandom. No. I think that they just but he came. I thought he came at them with the appropriate response, the appropriate amount of giving them back what they gave to him. Just guys, remember the old golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, that's what happened. You want equality, you got equality. You got to get treated like everybody else would in that situation.